to ride the 89 bike, but I had no idea how much more violent the power was on the 89 bike to the 94. Everybody's standing on the wall. I need to do a good wheelie. Walk back, smack, smash, bang, walk back.
Welcome to another episode of Petrol Revolt. This bike needs no introduction. It's Kevin Schwantz's 1989 Pepsi Suzuki. He should have won the championship this year, but unfortunately, he won 6 races on it, but unfortunately had one too many DNFs. To my knowledge, that I'm the only other person to be able to ride this bike apart from Kevin, so it's a very, very special opportunity. I don't want to waste no more time in talking about it. I just want to get on and ride it. But first of all, I need someone professional to come in and start it for me. I can't believe I'm actually getting a chance to ride Kevin Schwantz 89 bike. This year he should have won the World Championship. We are at Kerber, a very short circuit, so I'm only going to poodle round because it's such a special bike, it's so rare. He's got carbon brakes on this as well, slicks, it's not a very hot day. So I'm not going to be going very fast on it at all. The only other person to ride this has been Kevin himself. So it's a very, very special motorcycle. You know, the Pepsi colours, he won 6 Grand Prix on this that year in '89, and he should have been world champion. He's always been a hero of mine. So this bike is the only running Pepsi bike, race bike in the world. So incredible, it's absolutely, and I'll tell you what, you can feel the sheer aggression from the throttle. I don't even want to open it up because I'm scared of it. That's why they called them the unrideables. But yeah, you can feel it just wanting to go. Absolutely incredible. I can't believe I've got the opportunity to ride it, I really can't. Can't believe I've got the opportunity to ride this bike, even around a little circuit like this. It steers absolutely amazing. It handles well, I mean I'm not going fast on it, but it does handle incredibly well. Incredibly well. The brakes obviously aren't working because we've not got them up to temperature. And you can hear that it's just getting a bit clogged up around here. Can't really stretch its legs. Wants to wheelie, you get it into 3rd gear, and the thing just wants to stand on its back wheel. I really don't understand how they rode them bikes as hard as they rode them, because they are animals.
Well, we've had to park this fantastic motorcycle up, but all I can say is, wow, I think we could have ridden this round all day. To be blown away down the straight, watch the front wheel pop up in first, second and third gear is just like watching that Unridables documentary, when all of those great GP racers from that era talked just about how unrideable these bikes were. But let's talk about how it felt, Danny. I mean, it's got to be a memory of a lifetime to ride this bike, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I rode it to nowhere near what level them boys rode it at, and I don't know how they used to ride it at that level, but Kevin's, he's been a hero. He was a hero of mine forever, you know. I grew up, I used to watch his championship winning year on video from 1993. The video was called Schwantz. I used to watch that on repeat when I was little growing up. So just to be, obviously I wasn't alive in '89, but the bike's so memorable. Obviously on his videos, I've seen videos of him on the Pepsi bike. You see him riding around Macau wheeling when he won on it. And it's a dream of mine. I've had so many dreams come true this year. It's unbelievable. It's just been a dream of mine to ride his bike. When I first got over the fact of how nervous I was to ride it, because you know, from my knowledge, is I'm the only other person to ride it apart from Kevin. As soon as I got over that fact, it was amazing. It went where it was a race bike, you know. It went where you wanted it to go. The power on it was just absolutely ridiculous. And
so on the power, then you've just come back from racing a weekend where you were on a stock R1. What was that pumping out of the back wheel?
I would say probably near on 200 brake horsepower. I mean, Paul Ricard, we done 230 mile an hour through the speed trap, so it's a quick bike, you know. But the bikes nowadays have electronics on them, you know. They're very much more user friendly, whereas this a lot lighter. It's still got a lot of horsepower, but of course I wasn't, you know, I was nowhere near riding the limit. I didn't even get my knee down because I just didn't want to. I didn't want to do any damage whatsoever.
So this is roughly 130 kilogram. And back in the day, if the motor was at full pelt, it would have been about 175 bhp, but it's a little bit backed off now because it doesn't do any racing, so it just needs to showcase itself. So it's a little bit safe, and they reckon this is running about 160. So letting 160 horsepower loose through the gears, first, second, third wheel up in the air. How did that feel to the Yamaha?
The Yamaha's quick, but this is just with no electronics, with it being two-stroke, you know, that sheer power sort of on-off switch. Incredible. I just had a smile on my face. I had a smile on my face, and it was not just because I was riding one of my heroes' bikes, but just because of the sheer power of it. And I could have rode it round all day, you know. Very nervous, obviously, cold, slick tyres. Everyone who knows when they're looking at a race bike, it's got carbon brakes on it. So, you know, we didn't get no temperature in the brakes, but...
Well, first off, let's just go through the engine. We got up to 14,000 RPM on the rev counter there. What, low down, where did the power band start to cut in?
I mean, obviously round here, with it being, you know, a very fast motorcycle, race bike and a two-stroke, it got clogged up quite a bit, so you had to clear it out a little bit. As you might have heard, you know, up at the top corner, I just wanted to clear it out a little bit so I could have a little blast down the straight. But to be honest, it's that powerful, it just went the whole way through. So, you know, the power band on it is very wide. Of course, when you're any motorcycle, when you're racing them, there's a certain power band in them where you want it to be, because that's where the maximum power is. But I don't know what the power band would be on one of these. I'm assuming it would be from like 9 to maybe 13 and a half, I should think, if you was racing it. But it just blew me away. Like, I couldn't believe it. And when you look back at how they were spinning the rear, and it caught them out a lot of times, but how they used to ride them was unbelievable. I cannot honestly get my head around how they used to ride them.
It didn't seem to matter what gear you had it in. It just seemed to point the front wheel up in the air if you just gave it a little bit of a squeeze. And from behind, I could see that you were starting to come on power a bit, because it would put quite a bit of smoke out, but then that was followed by the front wheel up in the air. So when they talk about just giving it a little bit too much throttle and it high sides on them, you can see that just from round here, they are unrideable.
You know, that's the way. In BSB now, they don't have any electronics, okay, but they can map the bikes in, you know, how much power they give them when they get on the throttle and stuff like this. But these bikes that was what they was bringing in and what they was taking out. It was the right wrist, you know, literally the right wrist. No electronics, no input with the fueling and mapping. Or they used to jet them and try and map them, obviously, to go as fast as they could, because, you know, they had all the likes of Yamaha, Honda and everyone trying to beat them. But again, in this era, Suzuki had a very strong bike, especially this year. Kevin should have won the World Championship. He won six races, and unfortunately had one too many DNFs to win the championship. But a lot of people who you speak to say that he should have won it in '89.
Yeah, I'm talking to the owner of this bike. It's one of 4 Pepsi Suzukis that came out of 1989, and Ron Haslam was another racer. Kevin Schwantz was another. The owner got this bike in a little bit of a decommissioned state, and it didn't have a complete motor in. Some suspension components were missing. But interestingly, I didn't know this until chatting with Steve, is that Kevin raced with a road shift pattern, not a race shift pattern. And the foot pegs of this bike had KS inscribed on the back, and it was set up in a road shift pattern, which is quite odd for a GP racer.
Oh, definitely. I mean, especially nowadays, but even back then, you know, a lot of people run race shifts, but that's the thing. This isn't a replica. This is the bike, you know.
Well, this is the one and only running 1989 Pepsi Suzuki in the world.
Exactly, and to be honest, we're so privileged to have it here. It's incredible, and I'm still tingling, like I'm still pinching myself that we've even got it here, let alone managing to ride it. You know, it's
yeah, keeping it running and keeping it going is a serious bespoke engineering activity. They were saying that the Yamaha 500 was sold to quite a lot of privateer race teams, and there was a good support package being able to buy parts. Apparently Suzuki didn't sell this to privateers, and now to keep it running, everything is bespoke. Gaskets, pistons, cranks, seals, everything has to be custom made. So you can see that to have one running nowadays is a real financial commitment, and that's why there is only one of these running in the world.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, without people like the owners of this bike, these bikes wouldn't be about, and we need to thank them a lot, because they don't do it to earn money, they do it because of the love of it, you know. And it's I think we all need to thank the people who have all these classic bikes, because to keep them going and to keep that the classic theme alive and the two strokes alive as well. You know, we love two strokes, and to keep it alive, it's incredible. And with everything what they do, you know, they have to make literally everything for it, because the things aren't about now.
Well, in the progression of the Petrol Volt RG500 story, we've had Barry Sheen's original 76 RG500, which you were fortunate enough to ride at Cadwell, and now this machine here. They are just works of art. When you look at the frame, the carburetors, which are completely bespoke, the radiator, swing arm, suspension, exhaust system, everything is just unreal attention to detail.
I rode round with a massive smile on my face, even though I wasn't going fast. I didn't want to go fast. I did give it a little blat down the straight, but it just put a smile on my face. And I'm sure when they raced them, they didn't have much of a smile on their face because of how hard they had to ride them and how scary they were. But yeah, incredible. You know, when you just look back at them the era, the way they used to ride them, they are true heroes. You know, they were warriors, weren't they?
Yeah, well, it was this bike that was plastered all over my bedroom wall, and that led me into my own Pepsi Suzuki, which reminds me, we are missing 3 things from this chat. We need to include them. One is Kevin Schwantz replica Arai crash helmet, my Pepsi Suzuki, and if we're lucky, Mr Schwantz himself.
I think we need to try and get that arranged, don't we? I mean, we have your Pepsi bike here, so I think we should bring it in and put them up against each other.
Well, let's see if we can get all 3 of those aligned.
Let's give it a go.
That's better. I think we've got a full set now. We've got my Pepsi Suzuki and my homage to Revving Kevin. I never ride without a replica Kevin Schwantz lid.
No, we've got everything, doesn't it? And we was just saying how good the Pepsi looks together, doesn't it? It's just such an iconic sort of image. And
well, I think you've got to set the scene, because you've got to go back to 1989. You've got to go back to having only 4 channels on your TV. And you were lucky if you actually saw a Grand Prix. You'd have had to have catched up on a Duke video or something like that. So for me, you know, this Pepsi Suzuki bike was on my bedroom wall, and on those videos that they used to do of the Grand Prix 500, you'd often see this bike probably at the crest of Laguna Seca, parked up much like we've got it now.
yeah.
The back music would have been The Heat Is On, Glenn Frey.
Yeah.
We've got Beverly Hills Cop on the TV.
Yeah.
And this was the iconic motorcycle of the time. But to put it into perspective, because this blew me away on the Sheen bike a bit, those were works of art, yeah?
Yeah.
You couldn't replicate that on the road. The Sheen bike, and you know, I'm a bit fanatical about this, but even I didn't know intricate details like this. You know, when we spoke to the mechanics, they said that the rear shock spring was titanium, and then to get the right weight out of it, they pickled it in acid. It's just unreal technology, and a pure work of art. So go back to 1989 when this was the Grand Prix bike, and you've got The Heat Is On your radio, then all you could buy from the shops would have been a GSXR 750, which, you know, this is kicking out, you know, 175, 185 bhp, but obviously the heavyweight GSXR 750 punching out 120, 130 something, nowhere near it. If you had something sports tourer, it would have been a ZX10 or a GSXR 1100, and again, heavyweight, nowhere near it. So you couldn't buy anything close to this. Yeah, this was an absolute epic work of art. Now, you've just come back from Boulder. You've been on an R1 where, what was the top speed you pulled?
Top speed was 230 mile an hour. So yeah,
from a bike, you can basically go and buy from a showroom, yeah? Like a Fireblade, you can trick it up with some trick bits and buy your race rep Fireblade. You can buy your race rep R1, and you can get very, very close to a race bike performance, yeah?
Oh, 100%. All our bike's got in it is a set of suspension. It's blueprinted and an exhaust on it. That's literally it. Okay, we map the engine map so we get the amount of power we can get out of it on a stock bike, but that is literally all we do. So it's incredible. You know, these bikes were just 10 steps ahead of anything else on the road, wasn't they? And they was an absolute animal. But then I suppose that's where this one comes in. You know, it was win on Sunday, buy on Monday, and that's where it comes in. And you look at them both together, and they're both just beautiful motorcycles. And why wouldn't you buy one of these? Just for the colour scheme. The colour scheme's awesome.
The iconic image for me, which drew me into my relationship with RGs, would have been that Pepsi Suzuki at Laguna Seca with a rising sun. It was an iconic few seconds of video, and just that captured me into riding and imitating it.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of Suzuki's, you know, and growing up watching the Schwantz video and that, I've always been a Schwantz fan. They're just, Suzuki's, I think, in their way are quite iconic, quite unique, quite quirky. They're a little bit different, aren't they, in their ways? And the guy who rode this was a little bit the same, wasn't it? You know, his riding style was a little bit different to other people's, and the way he rode it was incredible. His personality was, you know, he was loved by British fans, wasn't he? So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to ride this bike today, and also have the RG out on track with us as well.
Well, we've been fortunate enough to have Barry Sheen's bike, and unfortunately, God rest his soul, Barry isn't with us, but Revving Kevin is still with us.
Yes, and we have managed to catch a chat with him, so I think we should catch up with Kevin and go from there.
Well, let's go and talk with the actual rider and what he thought of his own bike.
Exactly. Well, I've got a few questions for him, that's for sure.
And Barry was like, you know, do you have to get back? You got another race? I was like, no, I don't. Well, he said, well, why don't you stay? I'd like to get one of my 500s going for you, and I'd like to take you a test. We'll test you at Snetterton. I was like, are you kidding me? You think I'm going to say no?